All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Correct Loser. I hope you're doing well. So, folks, I'm back from back injury hell. What a nightmare. I missed you guys. Gonna do a loose hangout type episode today. Soft return. Talk about some things that probably would have been episodes if I wasn't in bed moaning in pain for 2 weeks. Get this one out of the way, and then I'm really looking to get into something big project that everybody finds mind-blowingly interesting. You guys know the drill. I had been following the Chris Chan situation very closely. Not much has happened with it in 2 weeks, as we'll talk about. But then kind of bailed on it when the Afghanistan debacle hit the news. I was pretty rapt watching that. This George W. Bush quote, I can't get it out of my mind. 20 years ago, when the United States of America is deciding, should we go into Afghanistan? You think it's going to be an inexpensive, short thing? George Bush is giving a speech, and he's talking about how it's the same story every time a big superpower goes into Afghanistan, and he's talking about that story, and he's giving a speech to everyone, and he goes, it's one of initial success, followed by long years of floundering and ultimate failure. We're not going to repeat that mistake. He leans in with this smirk. We're not going to repeat that mistake. We're not going to repeat that mistake. We're not going to repeat that mistake. They repeated it. It has been repeated. And one of the stories that just breaks my heart is the Taliban goes and meets with a folk singer, just a little happy-looking guy with an acoustic guitar. Hey, how are you? You know the type. They met with him. They had tea with him. They were like, you're good. And then they left. And then the Taliban was like, wait a second. Wait, music is against the law in our culture. And so they went back, drugged the little happy folk singer out of his house, and blew his head off right there on his farm in front of his son. It's like, how offensive really could his little folk songs have been? Was he going, everybody in the Taliban is mean and has an extra small penis? Woo! At this point, I don't even know how I feel about Allah. La la la. What a disaster. I feel so bad for the people dealing with that crap. But let's talk about Chris Chan. I was a little bit bummed that I didn't get my Chris Chan episode off. And then I was like, you know what? Something will happen in the couple weeks I'm recovering, and then I'll swing in with the update. And really, nothing has happened with it, to a point where it's a little bit weird. But let's talk about it. So, the beginning of this month, Chris Chan, infamous autistic internet personality, was arrested and charged with 1 count of incest for allegedly raping his old demented mother, Barbara, in their home. The way that came about is on July 29th, a 10-minute chunk of a phone call was leaked where Chris Chan is talking to, at first, a mystery woman. The internet would then identify the mystery woman as Isabella Janke, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you'll see. Once they peg Isabella Janke as the other voice on the phone call, this story spins off into kind of clown world in a way. But so Chris is talking to Isabella about his new relationship with his mom, and it's disgusting, it's horrifying, it's sad, and Chris, like I said, is arrested. He appeared in court. I talked briefly about it, but he stomped his feet in court. He told the judge he was internet famous. He said he wouldn't be comfortable proceeding with the whole thing until he got his personal belongings home. I'm sure the judge was just looking at him like, what? No, none of what you're saying is even going to be considered, Chris. And he has another court date planned for this month. I would guess, if it hasn't happened yet, he's going to be given a psych evaluation. And if the investigation proves that he did have that relationship with his mom, I would guess that Chris is either going to end up in jail or, depending on the psych evaluation, a mental hospital where he's locked up as well. I don't think he is safe to be around himself or other people. And a lot of people are saying, man, can you believe the Chris Chan saga ended like this? Or can you believe it got this dark or this bad? And I had no idea it would end like this or get to this point. But I knew it was never going to end good for Chris Chan. He was so intertwined with the darkest, most toxic, troll-infested, literally everybody has a severe mental disorder part of the internet that there's no way it was going to end good. Chris Chan is tied to the internet like a noose around someone's neck right before they kick out the chair. It was never going to end well for the guy or the girl. Sorry. And speaking of that, Maurice Woolen, the To Catch a Predator, the guy that didn't do anything but did something stupid, saw that he hung himself too. So, so Chris, like I said, depending on what the head doctor says, I think he'll end up either locked away somewhere. It just depends on what the place is called. So let's talk about Isabella Janke. The internet really went and tried to find everything they could about her, and it's kind of a bizarre, like, she goes to Texas Tech, she's a college student, and apparently what has been reported is that she's like a leader of this little cult of trolls. That's what they call it. She's a cult leader, more of a pack of bums, if you ask me. But so she goes to Texas Tech, and they're in this little club that this is all allegedly, right? I'm just getting this from a few small channels that know how to go on Kiwi Farms message board. There's channels like Shallow Dawn, I got a lot of this stuff from. Just a couple of them really put out all the information on Isabella Janke. So if you type in Isabella Janke, you can check out some of those channels. But the picture that's painted for Isabella is that she is like the leader of this, what they pretend is a chess club, but they just picture themselves as trolls. And what they call trolling, I always thought was just harassment. I don't know what makes it trolling and not harassment, but it's like, looks like to me in three different categories. Like she loves to harass autistic people or autistic transgender people, and by telling them like, hey, this other autistic person likes you, so I guess they maybe have an awkward encounter with each other, and maybe Isabella and her little loser friends tape it to embarrass them. Or it was reported that Isabella convinced someone that they should kill themselves, like one of those type of people. I mean, it's obvious that this Isabella Janke is deeply unsatisfied with something about herself. She really hates something deep inside of herself, and she just takes it out on other people. And so the first thing is there's all this information that they allegedly, like I said, harass autistic people, try to get them to do embarrassing things and film it, so maybe they kill themselves, or just they can go, ha ha, look at that, we really got them. And then the second thing that came out is they either abuse animals. Her dog, it came out that maybe that she like purposely neglected her dog until it died, or they broke a cat's legs, or they boiled a hamster, all this stuff. But since 2 or 3 weeks have gone by, I figured like Texas Tech would do an investigation, the law enforcement of that town. You know, this got really big. A lot of people were hitting up Texas Tech on Twitter going, what's the deal? Are you guys going to look into this Isabella Janke girl? You know, all this stuff is coming out that she is abusing dogs and autistic people, and the whole thing's a nightmare, and nothing has come out since then, which makes me believe that there's a chance that maybe they're not actually abusing animals, but just get how crazy this is, appearing, like making videos or saying that they are on the internet because they know it'll just get people to go, oh my God, you know, people love animals, and get people to go, wait, what? They're abusing animals? And then they go, did you see how everybody got pissed and how everybody, you know, got interested in us? That's so cool. We're really trolling everybody. And then the third portion of their little loser club is that they purposely, I think, want to be gross. Like things came out that they just purposely not shower and smell bad and then go to class at Texas Tech. So people are like, ugh, this person smells like poop. And they move, and there's videos of them like farting on each other. And I guess where the whole thing's at with Isabella, everybody's just twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a real investigation to be done to see how much of this stuff is real, how much of it is just them appearing to be notorious, trolls that are scary online. It's just where I'm sitting, it's impossible to tell. So like I said, I'm sort of just sitting back and waiting. You would think because of all this stuff is on the internet that an investigation could be done. And so hopefully if there is one done and any of this stuff comes out to be true, that she'll be arrested. And if it just comes out that they want to appear to be, if she just wants to be the stinky bitch on the loser forums and it's actually not what they're doing, then, I guess that it is what it is. But what a weird just world. I had no idea that there was people out there trying to just get autistic people to do something embarrassing so they can tell their friend that smells like fart in the fake chess club. Hey, bud, what are you doing? Everybody, Walter's here. Hey, bud, what are you doing? So, I don't even know if I explained that one right. It really took a turn for the bizarre. What are you doing, bud? But like I said, now it's kind of just a waiting game. Also, Isabella Janke got arrested on July 26, so 3 days before the phone call between Chris Chan and her came out. And she was arrested for having a taser-like thing here in the airport in New York City. It's like, way to go. That's a smart one. And another pretty crazy thing that's come out, I have no idea if it's true or not, is they've been saying that either Isabella's parents are both federal agents or her dad is a retired Navy SEAL. It's just like, what? And what else with that one? I don't know. It really bums me out that there are people like Isabella that are just smell and are mean and are harassing autistic people. Like, I really didn't know that was a thing. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Isabella gets charged or what. But I'm going to leave that one alone for now. I'll give you an update. Now let's talk about Elizabeth Holmes. At first they call you crazy, then they fight you, then you date an old man named Sonny, then they charge you, and now you're here. So Elizabeth Holmes, the tall blonde man that invented the Edison machine and the Theranos, the whole mythology behind that, her trial started, which is probably surreal. This trial has been postponed and pushed back and shoved down by Elizabeth Holmes and her lawyers for years. There's YouTube videos from like a year and a half ago titled, Elizabeth Holmes' Lawyers Asks for the Charges to be Dropped. And it's got to be surreal for her that it's finally here. I would have wanted the complete opposite. If I was her, I said, let's just get this over with. I don't want 10 years of my life to be worrying about the trial and how it's going to end up. But they have really pushed it off and off and off. In 2009, the Theranos had already been going for 6 years, and a lot of her employees were thinking, what is going on here? Everybody's lying. The product doesn't work. We're not testing anybody's blood with one drop. Theranos was about out of money. So all the way back in 2009, she was already in big trouble. It was all going down. And then she gets this new big investor, Sunny Balwani, right? And they start dating. He's 19 years older than her. And they looked like a weird couple. He's like an old, mean-looking Indian guy, and she's a crazy-looking, young girl and with the crazy eyes. And so they start a relationship, which was bizarre. And it comes out. And so I think the trial is starting this week. They already picked the jury, and we're going to, I think, hear opening statements this week. And the trial, I'm getting all my information on this one by the guy that blew the whistle on the whole thing. I can't remember his name, but he wrote a book called Bad Blood that kind of broke the thing open, and now he's doing a podcast on the trial. So if you search like Bad Blood book, he'll come up. But he seems to be good information. But it seems like the trial has two different heads, and one of them is they subpoenaed the database for the Edison, their herpes testing machine that didn't work, right? And so they subpoenaed the database so they could say, they could prove, look, this never worked. They lied their asses off. They lied to Walgreens. People that had cancer were using this thing. What a disaster. And, oh shoot, I forgot my point. Where was I going with that? So first they subpoena the database, and they give the authorities the database, and the authorities are all right, great, thank you. And they plug it in, and they go, wait a second, this isn't the relevant information. This is the wrong database. And then they said, well, no, you got to give us the other database for what we need that's relevant for this trial. And Theranos was like, oh, that database? Yeah, we destroyed that database, so it doesn't exist. And so part of the trial is going to be Elizabeth Holmes' side saying, how can we even have this trial? The data, that we don't even know the data that she's supposedly in trouble for. And the prosecution is going, I would assume, say, nah, even without that database that you guys deleted, which is really sketchy, circumstantial evidence should be enough to bring this one home. So there's that part of the trial. And then another part of the trial, which came up very recently, now Elizabeth Holmes is claiming that Sunny Balwani, the guy that came in, the big investor that came in 2009, that they even started dating, she's saying that he became the puppet master that really took the Theranos company into the illegal direction. She was the young, innocent tech genius that fell under the mean Sunny Balwani spell, and that she was basically controlled. He told her when to sleep, when to eat, everything, and she was totally just young and naive and abused. So that's what they're going with. Those are going to be the two things. Like I said, opening statement should be this week, so that should be really interesting. That's all I have about that one. Real quick, I'm just going to tell you a lighthearted story about an autistic girl that I went to college with. The Chris Chan, that story is just so sad and depressing that I want to end on a lighthearted story about an autistic girl that wasn't harassed, just to end on a good note, right? So freshman year, I went to Colorado State, and you're in these huge lecture halls with the freshman classes, and the class was Introduction to Mass Media. And there's 350 freshmen in this huge lecture hall, and there's a giant screen, almost like a movie theater-esque type screen. And one of the girls in the class had autism, and you would see her all over campus and all over town, really absolutely tearing ass on this road bike. She would just bomb everywhere, just whoom! And she always had this kind of like all business look on her face, and which made it, when she just would fly by you on her bike with that look, kind of just, I don't know, just kind of summed her up. And something interesting about her is she was probably like a 9 or a 10 in the looks department, and she dressed very stylish, and she, rode her bike everywhere, and she had this big, serious bike helmet that went all the way down. It's important if you ride the way she did. And kind of the funny thing about it is she wouldn't take the bike helmet off as she would come into class, which at first everyone was kind of like, she's wearing a helmet. But then as we all got to know her, it became part of her charm. It's also just ballsy too. Like if I wanted to wear a helmet into the big lecture hall, I wouldn't, because I was like, everyone's going to make fun of me. But she was not bothered by the thought of that, and she wanted to wear a helmet, and she would wear her helmet the whole day, the whole class. And what was funny is she would sit right in the middle, and the helmet was pretty tall off of her head. And so the projector, the big movie theater projector in the back of the room would shine on the big screen. But because she sat right in the middle, the projection, the bottom of it would just catch the very top of her bike helmet. And so there'd be a little portion of a circle shadow on the screen. I always thought that was funny. But she, also her voice was this like loud, monotone, and she would raise her hand if something didn't make sense to her and really just go at the professor. If something didn't make sense, she would go, "What you're saying doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't we just turn in both assignments in 2 weeks?" And I'd be sitting there like, exactly, thank you. Why, something that I would have been like, I can't say that to the professor. She had no problem just going, what? And so anyway, you'd see her around town. She was great. She, everybody liked her. She would tell the professor what we all wanted to say at times. And so one day we get in there and there's a guest lecture. The professor goes, "All right, everybody, today we have a surprise. We're going to have a guest lecture, by so-and-so." And it's this guy. And she's like, "Okay, so I'm going to, go sit off the side." So this guy starts guest lecturing, right? And he just doesn't have it, As far as I'm a public speaker, right? I even if it's not my thing, like whatever he's saying, I will at least give someone credit if they have their stuff together, if they have some sort of public speaking skill or something. And this guy just didn't have it. He was up there. He was really slow to make his points and kind of just mean mugging and really enjoying just the attention without saying anything. And all of a sudden I see the girl's hand go up and I'm going, oh no, what? And she raises her hand, and the guy up there is just kind of mean mugging, loving the moment, not really saying anything that anybody cares about. And he sees her hand, and he goes, "Yeah?" And she goes, "You're making your points very slowly, and it's hard to listen to." And then she just glared at him with her all business look. And I immediately looked over to the professor, and the look on her face, as you could tell, that she forgot to tell him the situation, and he was just absolutely bewildered. And she just stared him right in the eye. And then the normal professor gets up and comes in and whispers in his ear, but at that point he still has to recover from it. I'm sure she whispered "Hey, she's got," and then the professor goes back and sits down, and the guy is just frozen. He just didn't know how to handle it. And it was it was great. I really liked that girl. I hope whatever she's doing in life, she's happy. But like I said, just wanted to end on a story where someone isn't harassed and it's awful. So that's going to do it for today. I love you all. It's good to be back. I'll see you soon. Why? Stiving Y. Shamita.